Sup guys, the name's Rona Dragneel and welcome back to Seduce Me the Otome. So last we left off, we got some fun time with James, whoop-de-doo, and yeah, all that stuff, so let's just continue. The remainder of the night passed by, surprisingly uneventful. The boys continued to train with each other, but were kind enough to stop and make me dinner. I was glad for that. Unsurprisingly, the food was perfect, but it felt a little empty without the boys to eat with me. They mostly had already eaten, but still, I felt lonely. I couldn't let it bother me. I ate and went back to my room to study and sleep. Surprisingly, I felt good going to bed that night. I felt like I could have a peaceful sleep after the previous rough nights I had. I felt good. I drifted to sleep and woke up flawlessly the next morning. No grogginess, no aches, perfectly energized. Skip all that. And someone made us breakfast. Cough, James, cough. As I spoke aloud, a small red note caught my attention. Have a good day. Yours. My heart skipped a beat as I finished. I could tell it was from one of the boys. Maybe it was from him? I smiled before putting the note in my bag and eating up. The food was so delicious, I devoured every amazing bite. I looked to the time again. Time to go. I quickly rushed to the doors, checking myself in the passing mirror. I wasn't wanting to impress anyone, but I still needed to look decent. Before I could reach the handle of the door, however, someone took my hand. Huh? I turned to see James, who was holding my hand back with a concerned frown on his face.
My name.
Your name?
My true name isn't James, miss. I want you to know my real name if something were to happen.
His true name? What did he mean? Why was he telling me this now? I remembered reading about a demon's name from the journal I read yesterday. If you knew a demon's true name, you could summon them to you, no matter where you were or where they were. James gently pulled me to him and leaned close to whisper in my ear.
My name is Raystrow.
I already knew that, but okay. As he said his name, I could feel it lock into my memory. Something in my head would make sure I would never forget it. James pulled away and smiled at me, despite still carrying worry in his eyes.
If you are in any danger, call my name. I promise that I'll come and help you.
I stared up at James, unable to say anything. I could only nod in response. James smiled before kissing my hand and heading into the dining room. Something told me that name would be used eventually. And right on cue, Naomi drove up to the gates with Suzu waving me down. I rushed out the door and we headed out to school, talking about the homework in the coming day. And I'm going to skip all that. Someone tripped us, either Lisette or someone else, but we decided what to do with Lisette. Glare into her soul is new. Why the hell not? I glared hard at Lisette, feeling wisps of air and magic run through my skin and veins. However, I stopped at what I saw. That shadow looks like Diana. Look at it. It looks like Diana. What the hell? Anyway. Around Lisette was a dark purple aura that seemed all too familiar. It was like demon magic, but it seemed to be tamer. Dark purple aura? It's Diana. End of story. That's it. I slowly rose to my feet, collecting my belongings as I continued to stare at Lisette. Something was off. As I continued to look at her, the aura grew, forming a shadow behind Lisette with red eye-like shapes glowing from within its darkness.
Anderson, you alright?
I couldn't respond. I was entranced by a small hum in the air. It was distant, almost like an ethereal whisper you'd hear in horror games. But it was real. It sounded vaguely of a woman humming a tune I didn't recognize.
Hey, are you okay?
Let's go. We'll be late for class. I suddenly felt the need to walk away, so I did. Naomi and Suzu scrambled to catch up and followed at my new quickened pace.
Sheesh, Anderson. You look like you saw a ghost. Are you really okay? That fall was pretty bad. Think she saw underneath Lisette's cake face and saw the devil itself.
Suzu, why are you always on point? That could possibly be it.
Oh, Suzu, hush!
No, something was wrong with Lisette. It was more than just her being mean. There was something, or someone, watching over Lisette. Or they were watching me behind Lisette. That would explain Diana knowing about where I go and all such things. And about... Yeah, let's just go. What they were doing, I didn't know, but it was definitely demonic. Skipping all that. Got captured by Alex's thing because our dad didn't come to pick us up. So now, Restro! All of a sudden, a bright purple light engulfed the room, causing the devils around me to cover themselves.
What the?
Gusts of wind rushed past me, almost forcing me back. I covered my face with my arms, bracing myself and standing my ground. I tried to peek through my arms to see what was going on, but the light continued to shine brightly. As the gust slowly started to die, the light began to fade, revealing James pointing a strange golden gun behind Malix's head. What? James!
It's all right now. I'm here.
Oh, goddamn. Malix stared wide-eyed behind him, unsure of what to do. He had no time to react in case James pulled the trigger. He was stuck, feeling the presence of James's golden gun that was ready to lodge a bullet into his skull.
Well, it seems like I finally have your cooperation, Malix. It took long enough.
Oh, God.
You piece of demon shit! I could shoot you right now.
And what's stopping me from shooting you first? If you so much as flinch, I will pull this trigger and end you once and for all.
Damn, James, you're such a savage. What the hell? I didn't expect this. The remaining devils stared, trying to figure out what to do, help Malix or watch in silence. Eris, however, walked up beside me and crossed her arms as she watched with an amused smirk on her face. Malix growled, obviously annoyed at the predicament he was in.
What is stopping you, pretty boy?
Just me wanting to do this.
Oh my God. With no hesitation, James quickly moved his gun and shot both of Malix's hands. The gun dropped from Malix's shot hand onto the ground as he knelt over in pain, holding his hands to his chest.
You son of a bitch!
Before Malix could finish this sentence, James aimed the gun once again at Malix's head, causing the devil to stop talking once again.
I didn't say you could speak. You want me to shoot you in the throat?
Oh my God. All of them are savage. I didn't expect this man to be savage. Very, very savage, though. I'm just gonna ignore that growl. Pretend I didn't hear it. Carry on. I stared at James in shock. Was he playing with Malix? He seemed to act like a cat poking a sharp claw at a wounded rat. It was warranted, but not what I expected of James at all. You don't expect a lot of things from this boy.
No. I'm going to give you 3 seconds to get on your knees to beg for forgiveness. Or, the next bullet goes for your pathetic hellborn skull.
Damn, boy. Malix hesitated, but eventually ended up on his knees. However, as he settled onto the ground, Malix wrapped his arms around James's leg and dug his teeth into it. I gasped, but remained still as I watched James aim and fire a shot into Malix's back. Malix released James's leg in shock, trembling at the newfound pain. However, for some reason, Malix didn't fall over and die. He remained still, staring ahead of himself in pure shock and pain. I could only watch in silence as James lifted his leg out of Malix's embrace and kicked Malix to his side.
Disobedience until the very end, huh?
The air instantly went from frantic to still in energy. What could have been described in tone as the color red quickly turned into a deadly mix of purple and gold as everything began to blend together all at once. I stared as James seemed to grow more menacing towards Malix. However, he quickly looked at me with a face of concern.
Please, forgive me for this.
You don't need to ask me for forgiveness. I want to see this thing go down. You are savage, James. I want to see the savageness. I did not expect this. I grew confused, but wasn't allowed to think on it as James looked back down at Malix once again. James's eyes began to glow a bright gold as James lifted Malix by his collar and pulled him up and off the ground.
It's high time you discovered the true power of demons.
Oh, snap. James's voice had changed, sending a large shiver down my spine. His appearance also started to change, but before I could see clearly what James was becoming, my eyes were covered.
It's me. Don't look.
Damn it, Damien, come on! I listened carefully and let the last 2 words linger in my mind. Don't look. Why? What was being hidden from me? I wanted to know, but something told me to obey Damien's command. I could hear Malik struggling to get out of James's grasp and the rich, bright sound of magic being cast. I struggled with myself to obey Damien's words, locking my arms to my sides to deny myself the chance to pull Damien's hands off from my face.
Let me go!
As you wish.
Oh shit! The sounds of demonic screams and cries bellowed all of a sudden, causing me to tense up in Damien's hands. Malix began to scream in agony, straining as if he was being pulled somewhere against his will. Malix's voice began to trail out in an echoey whisper as the magic sounds in the air consumed his cries. Soon enough, the cries and wisps of magic stopped, leaving the air as silent as it could be. However, Damien didn't remove his eyes.
Jeez, James. Haven't seen you use that trick since the intruder in Demon Castle. But you're losing your touch. You even lost your glamour spell.
I'm sorry, I read that wrong. I meant Damien didn't remove his hands.
It couldn't have been helped.
Glamour spell? What did he mean? Why did James sound so different? Why was this being hidden from me?
It's a spell that makes us look human.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I hit that by accident. Didn't mean to cut you off, Damien. I'm so sorry. I froze. Look human? They didn't look like humans after all? What did they look like?
Like demons.
As if Matthew knew what Damien was talking about, Matthew spoke up, followed by the sound of a cork popping out of a bottle.
Well, not for much longer. Here.
Thank you, Matthew.
I could hear the small clinking of glass being passed before hearing James guzzle down a liquid of some sort. The stiff feel of the air around me gently began to warm back up, insinuating that everything had been returned to normal. Finally, Damien moved his hands from my eyes, allowing me to see around me once again. The devils, including Eris, had fled. Malix was nowhere to be found. The boys, however, had gathered around me, all of them including James, looking like nothing had happened. What just... I tried to speak, but everything zipped around in my head at the whole event, and I felt like speaking was impossible.
Let's just get you home, miss. There's nothing more to see here.
I could only nod. What had happened boggled my mind to the point of disbelief. I was second-guessing everything, lost in a sea of what, and how, and when. As we walked out of the warehouse, I looked to James for some form of sign that I wasn't dreaming. James kept his eyes forward, unable to look at me. It was over. Malix was gone, and the boys were finally safe. I'm gonna skip some of this. Yeah. Now I have to decide if they're gonna stay or not. That was only fair. I looked to James, feeling my heart flutter in my chest. I didn't want him to leave, but would he ask to stay? I hoped that he would say no and ask me to stay longer. As if he knew what I wanted, James moved and smiled at me, taking my hand and bringing it to his lips for a kiss. He moved it away, smiled to me, and spoke.
Miss, if I may be so forward. Despite the short time we've stayed here, I've thoroughly enjoyed my time here. That being said, would you allow us to stay here?
My heart skipped while a large red blush ran across my cheeks. The boys stared at James wide-eyed, but didn't dare to speak out. James stepped back to give me space, returning to where he was. I moved my gaze across each boy, trying to make a decision. If they left in the morning, I would never see them again, and my life could return to normal. If I did decide to let them go, that would have been for the best. No goodbyes, no delays. But did I want to? They had done so much for me in such a small amount of time. Let them stay. Let them stay. I wanted them to stay. I wanted him to stay. I merely smiled, staring at the man I had come to have feelings for before speaking at last. I would love it if you all could stay. They all cheered. Woo! I'm just gonna...
All right, everyone. We're all very tired, so let's head to bed, shall we?
Oh! Yeah, sleep is actually a thing. Right.
Not for insomniac people. I'm just... Okay.
We've had a very long day, but it will be good to just relax tonight and tomorrow.
Sleep sounds really good right now.
Yeah, man.
I watched a very happy smile grow onto James's lips. He shared my excitement, knowing that we would be together longer. Who knew how long we would stay together? All I cared about was that I would be with him. The others quickly left to finally rest, leaving me and James alone at last. My heart fluttered a bit as James walked closer to me, gently wrapping his arms around my form. I placed my hands onto his shoulders, leaning close.
You are an absolutely wonderful woman. I'm so happy that you let us stay here.
I'm happy too, James. I stared up into his eyes, getting lost in them. I didn't know if it was the tiredness or my growing attachment to him, but I felt myself lean into James's body. It invited me to stay a while, making me forget that my bed was also calling for me.
Listen, about what happened at the warehouse.
No, it's fine. You did what you had to do. I understand. I had accepted everything while in James's warmth. He was real and he was someone I didn't want to be without, even if that meant nodding against my curiosity. Besides, I was too tired to explore that memory further. James nodded before kissing my forehead sweetly.
Come, let's get you to bed.
I nodded before James gently lifted me up into his arms like a bride and carried me to my room. I didn't want to leave his arms, leaning my head against James's chest, but eventually I was slowly lowered into my bed and covered with my bed covers. I was still in my school clothes, but I was too tired to strip or care. I looked to James, fighting a yawn from escaping me as he gently ran a hand over my hair.
Have sweet dreams. I'll prepare breakfast again for you in the morning.
I nodded with a tired smile before watching him slowly stand and leave my room, closing the door. We've happiness washed over, blah, blah, blah.
You are an interesting creature.
Just gonna skip you, Diana, because, yeah. And Diana's come to ruin our lives again, trying to bring the boys back. Okay, let's see. Eventually, the morning arrived and the sun screamed at me to get up. Wake the fuck up! Surprisingly, I woke up before my alarm clock once again, which was nice. I stretched and quickly got dressed, getting ready for school. She expected me to say goodbye to the boys. I will say good morning and we'll see them again when I come back. No way am I going to say goodbye. And let's just skip all that. Damien knows who we're talking about, so why don't we just tell him anyway? Damien pressed his lips together in a fine line. The other boys looked at me with a raised eyebrow. A girl named Diana came by last night.
Diana? Is she important?
Did she try to hurt you?
She's a succubus. I'm just gonna skip all that. Called me a virgin? Oh, hell no! Stepped up gently, pushing the boys away to be face to face with Diana. I was furious and she was about to feel my wrath. You are in my house. You are an intruder. You have no power here.
Oh, really? Do I have to remind you of the power I have, dear?
I'm just gonna skip that. Oops. Sorry, didn't mean to skip all. Okay, yeah, Diana tried, but unsuccessfully. Tried to bring the boys back. And James is saying that she'll be back, but she won't kill us. She needs us alive. That's what James said. Not me, James.
Whatever. We'll just keep saying no. She can't force us to come back.
She can't do anything but annoy us. Eventually, she'll give up.
That's the hope, anyway.
Hopefully. James walked over to me and gently caressed my cheek, looking at me with a comforting smile.
There's no need to worry. I promise she won't hurt you.
I nodded, feeling that he was telling the truth, or at least a hopeful and comforting thought. James kissed my forehead, however, making me blush and forget what I was thinking about. The sound of collective chuckles and playful snickers whispered through the air, making me blush even more, but the sudden growl that erupted from the man above me made the laughter stop. I didn't see James's face, but I could tell that he was glaring at his brothers with his lips on my head. Really wanted to hear that growl. Oh my god. He and I pulled away from each other just as the sound of Naomi's car appeared. I quickly ate my food, waving to the boys, and left, confident that nothing was going to happen. Never, ever say that nothing will happen before the day is over. Okay, just gonna skip that. Diana's being a terrible teacher, so it doesn't matter what happens to the princess. That's not true. Calling her out because she's a terrible teacher.
Excuse me, little miss. I'd like you to stay a little while. There's something we need to discuss. You two can head home. Don't worry about your friend until next week, okay? If you contact her, she won't reply, so don't bother. If she contacts you, ignore her, because she's just fine.
As if on command, Susan, I'm just gonna leave. I slammed my head on the desk in front of me and glared at Diana. I lost my friends for the week, and there's no more school for the week. God damn, Diana. What are you doing, and what are you thinking?
What? Do I not make a good teacher?
No.
I figured you should have a little lesson, so I took matters into my own hands.
Whatever you're trying to do won't work.
You really think so, dear? And what makes you so sure about that?
What was making me so sure? Why was I confident? Were the boys worth this? My thoughts began to fill with doubt. All of the uncertainties about this whole ordeal began to cloud my mind. If the boys were ever found out, there'd be hell to pay. Was it worth it? What about Diana? What would she do to me? Would she make my parents forget about me completely? Would she ruin my friends' lives out of spite? In my gut, I felt a stone of confidence, trying to fight back, but the heaviness of my thoughts began to dissolve that stone little by little. What was going on with me? I looked up to Diana once again and see her gaze boring into my eyes. She was using her powers on me. This time, I was away from home, so I couldn't escape. Or could I? Did I want to? The way she stared at me made me feel warm and fuzzy inside my chest. I felt like melting. Diana lifted a hand under my chin and ran her thumb over my lips, licking her own. I could feel little shots of energy sipping from under her skin into my chin where she held me.
Now, let's have a little taste of that sweet, virginal sexual energy.
As I watched as she leaned in, ready to kiss me and take my energy. Half of my body felt elation at the idea, the other half completely rejected it and didn't want her to even touch me. James. Suddenly, Diana stopped in her tracks.
James? Who is...
Then it dawned on her.
Ah, one of the boys. Why don't you tell me which boy is James?
I felt myself not in compliance. The oldest. Diana giggled in reply before letting go of my face and stepping back.
Really? The eldest son with you?
Yes, the eldest son with me. Oh my god. I just forgot what I was about to say to her. The eldest son is with me. You motherfucker. Okay. Close enough. I nodded once again, but this time it was partly my own decision to reply. Diana let out a sound that mimicked a cat's purr before stepping away from me.
All right, then. Well, if it's the eldest son you're infatuated with, you should really rethink your romantic options.
I think not. I'm sticking with my options. Diana chuckled before kissing my nose where I felt a shot of energy zap out of my body, almost making me dizzy and recoil. Diana then turned to the desk and sat on the wood, crossing her legs.
You can go now. Remember, no class for the rest of the week.
And how am I supposed to get home? My two friends left me here thanks to you.
Oh, were they your ride? My apologies. Let me help then.
Diana then lifted her hand and snapped her fingers. I suddenly felt the floor sink from underneath me, forcing me to look down. A purple pentagram surrounded my feet, pulling me into the ground. Whoa! Before I could fight, however, I sank fully into the floor, fading into darkness and shutting my eyes. As I opened them, I felt my silk sheets around me, soothing my anxiety from the darkness that had previously surrounded me. What the? Skip.
Miss, what are you doing here?
Aren't you supposed to be in school?
Yeah, about that. You know what? I furrowed my eyebrows and stared at Damien, asking him to answer their questions through my thoughts. Yeah, Damien, please tell them.
Diana sent her back here. She invaded her school and sent all the students back home.
What is that bitch up to? Seriously, Diana's playing around for no reason.
Maybe it's part of her plan.
The boys continued to argue back and forth about Diana, fueling an almost jealous curiosity in me. Damien seemed to be too deep within the talking to notice my thoughts, for he didn't even stop talking alongside his brothers. Why was Diana after them? Why did she want to bring them back? What was so important about the boys that she would travel to the human world to get them? What was going on? I decided enough was enough. I needed answers. Hey! The boys stopped arguing, staring at me in surprise. I held my fists on my lap, mustering the courage to continue to speak despite my abrupt shout. Why is Diana here? Why does she want to bring you back? What exactly did you run from? Why did you run from it?
Miss,
Don't miss me, please. I need to know what is going on. I won't be left in the dark about this. I want to know what I am facing. Boys looked at each other hesitantly, unsure of what to reply. Finally, Sam pushed Damien towards the bed, making him buckle and land on his knees with the torso over the edge of the mattress.
Damien, do the thing.
The thing? What thing? You know, the thing.
Sam, you're not suggesting.
Even Eric knows what's up.
Why not? She deserves to know everything. especially if Diana is targeting her.
Sam's right.
I guess we have no choice then.
I was getting confused. What was Damien about to do? Damien stood before climbing onto the bed with me sitting across from me on his knees.
We're going to show you everything. You have to trust me, okay? The minute you stop trusting me, the vision will stop.
Vision?
Please, just trust him.
I looked to James, unsure of what was going on, but I nodded. If this was the only way to learn, then this was my chance to know. Damien gently placed his hands on each side of my head, gently pressing his thumb into the skin above my eyebrows. I could only stare at Damien as his eyes began to glow gold and energy began to be both pulled out of me and forced into my head. Within seconds, my vision went black once again. I wasn't sure of what Damien was doing, but soon shapes and textures slowly began to appear around me. Skipping all of this crap. Yep, so Damon Lord was talking to his servant about the marriage between Diana and James, or race trial. Yeah, okay. Anyways, is that?
Race trial? Your nose is stuck in those books. Will you not lift your head up from them once in a while?
Huh? That voice. I circled around the pillar to see a second demon leaning against another pillar smirking at race trial.
Aren't you supposed to be with your mother practicing the harpsichord?
I will never skip this because this is just really adorable, okay?
I am, but I had a feeling that you were in danger.
In danger? What are you...
Attack!
All of a sudden, 3 shadows zipped through the room and slammed into Racestraw, forcing him to fall to the ground and drop his book. As the sight cleared for me, there were 3 other demons in a dog pile with Racestraw at the bottom.
Get up! No way! You haven't had a break in months from those stupid butts. It's time for punishment!
Death by brotherhood! No more reading!
Oh my god, Damien's child voice. I will never get tired of that. It's so adorable.
I told you that you were in danger.
I suddenly knew who these demons were. It's the boys. Even in the demon world, their brotherly connection was astounding. They were merely younger versions of themselves. One of the demons, who I assumed was Matthew, grabbed the book from the floor and opened it, reading it mockingly.
How can you read this, Racer? It's all about war strategy. It's boring.
I have to, Zakaru. Get off!
There's only one thing you need to know about strategy. Kill them all. Take no prisoners.
You sound just like father.
I couldn't help but giggle. It was cute to see them acting childish with each other. Eventually, James managed to push his brothers off of him and stand brushing himself off.
You all are reckless.
At least we have fun.
It's true. You haven't been with us in weeks. Don't you think it's time for a break?
I'm sure father won't mind.
But I have to...
I know you want to, Racestraw.
Because he can read your mind.
Damn it. What is going on here?
And the fun's over, skipping again. Okay, Damien overheard about the marriage deal, and they all want to escape from that, especially James wanting to escape that thing. Okay, I closed my eyes and mentally asked Damien to end the vision. As soon as I asked, the world around me slowly vanished, and I was brought back to the bedroom where I sat with my head nestled in Damien's hands. My vision began to clear, letting me fully see the boys around me, all with concerned faces.
So, you now know exactly who we are.
Diana is the girl you arranged to marry?
Not anymore. Once we left, the arrangement was broken. With no sons to marry off, her dad couldn't go through with the marriage deal.
If Diana is here for us, that means she's trying to save her kingdom from being attacked.
That's not true. She wants to rule our kingdom. Having one of us will give her the right to our kingdom, as much as we'd have right over hers.
So she's a gold digger.
I mean, I don't know. Half right. Like, both Eric and Damien are right. Let's just put it that way.
Well, with a kingdom like ours, what succubus wouldn't want to marry us for it?
Oh, wait, no, I think Damien was right, but then something happened and made her change her ways. Okay, let's just move on. It all made sense. She wanted them so that she could finally take over an opposing kingdom. She knew that despite her power, she wouldn't be able to fight against their father, so she had to find another way in. The manipulative. Before I could continue, I felt my head suddenly get heavy and dizzy. I grabbed my head, kneeling under my breath. What the?
I took too much. I'm so sorry.
Rest now. There's no need to do anything more today.
The boy suddenly rushed over and helped me lay back down as my vision was painted in white polka dots. I needed sleep badly. Instantly, I closed my eyes and let darkness consume me. After what seemed like hours, I finally woke up, slightly refreshed. My body knew that if I slept longer, I'd be up all night, which was not part of the plan for the day. I rubbed my eyes and sat up, letting a soft groan escape my lips. In response, something beside my bed shuffled, causing me to look over. I didn't know what I was expecting. Beside me, sitting in a chair beside the bed, was James, rousing himself up to see me awake. I smiled at him, seeing his slightly ruffled hair with tired eyes.
Oh, you're awake. Good. Oh, how do you feel?
Better. James nodded before he gently reached over and ran his hand through my hair, examining my face with soft sadness.
I'm sorry this is all happening to you. I really wish there was something I could do to fix all of this.
James, it's not your fault.
No, if we never came, then you'd never be targeted by either Malix or Diana.
I quickly reached over and put my finger on his lips, stopping him from going any further. I didn't want to hear anymore. James, it's okay. I wanted to help you out. I offered to let you all stay. Nothing is your fault. I gently moved my hand and cupped James's cheek, staring at him with concern. I didn't want him to hold guilt in his mind about this whole ordeal. Diana was desperate and she'd hunt anyone down for them. She'd hunt anyone for them. It wasn't his fault she was desperate enough to hunt them down. However, I was curious. So, James, you're a demon prince? James then twirled a strand of my hair around his finger, staring at it.
Yes, I am. I was.
Was?
I was a demon prince when I lived in the Abyssal Plains. I didn't enjoy a single minute of being the heir. The only moments I truly enjoyed were when I was with my brothers. Thus, I left with them to come here.
What was it like while you were there?
Well, other than consistent studying and training to be a resilient leader and all-around ruthless lord, it was bland. I never truly knew what freedom was until I was excused from my sessions.
I definitely know that feeling, James. It's like going to school and then coming out after finishing your exams and your lessons and everything, and you're like, freedom! Or just being let out of school in general. So yeah, I understand you. James looked at me with a thoughtful look on his face. I stared back, wondering what was going through his mind. He then smiled before taking off his glasses and placing them on me. I was surprised, but instead of seeing him, I saw dark gold and purple magic swirl in front of my eyes through the glass. The vision cleared, and I suddenly was back in the demon castle. I looked around, feeling stuck in place, but my eyes instantly landed on the demon version of James. He was sitting on the throne of the main hall, reading over a book with an intense expression. It was kind of cute to see him. It was kind of cute to see, but he read in silence.
You'll wear out your eyes if you read too much.
James looked up from his book to see a figure materialize in front of him. It was an older woman with a black cloak and aged horns. I could see she had power, though, and it gave me shivers to look at her.
Sirona, what are you doing here? Shouldn't you be at the Lord gathering with my father?
I should, yes. But I had to stop by and see the Demon Lord's favorite son before I head in.
I am honored. However, I must apologize and return to my reading.
Of course, of course. Wouldn't want to make the Demon Lord angry now, would you?
I could see James's eyes twitch a bit at her comment. However, James simply bowed his head and went back to his book in silence. Sirona shook her head and let out a chuckle.
What will you do when you become the Demon Lord? It's such a big responsibility.
James looked up once again, confused at the question. Sirona simply smiled and began to walk away.
Think about that.
James and I watched her walk away, both of us with the same surprised and confused expression. I looked back to James to see him press his lips together and stare at the floor. Anyone could tell that he was lost, unsure of how to even answer that to himself. It was strange to see him in a form of weakness, jolted at a simple question that was more than it appeared. James closed his eyes and closed the book on his lap. It was then that I noticed the tired circles under his eyes. He had been working himself to the bone with his training and reading. When was the last time he slept? I could feel James in the real world gently slide the glasses from my face and place them back on his. It took me a second to recenter my vision, but I then looked to James, who smiled at me.
It was then that I decided to find my brothers. Little did I know that they were wanting me to come on a trip that would make me leave my entire realm to be in a new world.
I stared up at him, surprised, before bringing my hand gently onto his cheek and running a thumb softly under his eye. He looked healthier and a lot less tired than when I saw him in the vision. Something about that made me happy. James gently leaned into my hand, closing his eyes and relaxing. He then smiled slightly, smiled, trying to joke.
So, how does it feel to hold the affections of an ex-demon prince?
Feels very good. Thank you for asking. I stared, feeling my cheeks glow red in surprise and embarrassment, but I smiled and giggled slightly, running my thumb back and forth along his cheek gently. I have to say, I'm flattered to think you ran away from that life. James frowned, making me stop moving my thumb as he stared at me.
I can promise you, that was no life to live.
I can see that, but it was your home.
A home is where you can be yourself, not tied to your duty.
Yes, this man knows what's up. James gently ran his hand along my cheek, gently outlining the edge of my eye and ear with his thumb.
Home is where all I have to do is care about the ones close to me.
James. James smiled and gently leaned in, kissing my forehead. I felt a small shiver run down my spine from his kiss, noting that he sneakingly took some energy from me in that little kiss.
Now, you need to rest. You're not fully recovered. You might as well rest until dinner is ready.
James smiled and gently pressed me back down onto the bed, laying his forehead on mine, stealing a kiss. Out of playful fun, I lifted my head and gently kissed James, softly laying a hand on his cheek to keep his face close. James stared in surprise before kissing me back, caressing my cheek, slightly melting at the touch of our lips. A soft sigh escaped his lips before he slowly pulled away with a smile. He gently licked his lips, making me go red in the face at the simple gesture. He let out a satisfied hum before nuzzling my forehead.
Rest.
And with that, he stood up and left the room, leaving me to rest as per his request. I smiled to myself before relaxing into the mattress. And that's it for this episode. So if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more of my content, then subscribe. Although I'm not forcing you to. Whatever floats your boat. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!